All right, let's dive into one of the most famous, and honestly, most misunderstood ideas in modern history, the Marxist view on religion. Now, it seems kind of simple on the surface, but as you're about to see, there is so much more going on here.
I mean, you've heard this quote before, right? It's probably one of the most powerful phrases Karl Marx ever put to paper. It's short, it's punchy, and it feels like it says everything you need to know. But, does it?
Because what if I told you that for Marxists, religion isn't just an opiate, that it could also be a revolutionary spark? Yeah. We're going to unpack what Marx was really getting at, and then look at how the thinkers who came after him made this whole picture way more fascinating.
So let's start at the very beginning, with Marx's original big idea. For him, society was basically this huge battle between two classes. You've got the ruling class, the bourgeoisie, who own all the stuff, and then you have the working class, the proletariat, who do all the labor. So where does religion fit into all this? Well, it played a very, very specific role.
This is the absolute heart of that opium metaphor. Marx wasn't just being cynical or dismissive. He totally understood that religion offered real comfort to people who were suffering under the brutal conditions of capitalism. The problem was, it was a false comfort. It was like taking a painkiller for a broken leg. It might make you feel better for a little while, but it does absolutely nothing to fix the actual break.
Marx saw this playing out in a few key ways. First off, religion is this powerful ideological tool. It's part of what he called society's superstructure that makes this whole unequal economic system seem totally natural, maybe even God's will. It tells people, hey, just be obedient now, accept your tough life, and you'll get your reward in heaven. And this is crucial, it deals with this thing he called alienation. When your job is soul-crushing and meaningless, religion gives you a whole other spiritual world where you can invest all your hopes and dreams.
But hold on, the story does not end with Marx. His partner in crime, Friedrich Engels, took a look at history and saw something a little more complicated. He agreed, sure, religion is often a conservative force, but he also saw that it had this incredible revolutionary potential.
And this is the key idea Engels brought to the table. Religion has a dual character. On the one hand, yes, it can absolutely be a tool of control that keeps everything just the way it is. But, and this is a huge but, he argued it can also be the very thing that gives oppressed people the language, the community, and the moral firepower they need to fight back. It can be a spark for real resistance.
And he had a killer example to back this up. Engels looked at the early Christian communities living under the boot of the Roman Empire. I mean, think about it. Here's a group of oppressed people who are rejecting the idea of wealth, sharing everything they have, and preaching about equality. He saw this as a kind of proto-communism, a perfect case where religion wasn't dulling the pain, it was mobilizing people against the ones causing it.
Okay, let's jump forward into the 20th century, because this is where the idea really starts to get layered. A new wave of thinkers, we call them neo-Marxists, took these ideas and got even more specific. They started asking not just what religion does, but how it actually does it.
You can see this really clear evolution here. It all starts with the big philosophical ideas from Marx and Engels. Then you get these more detailed theories about power and consent from guys like Antonio Gramsci and Louis Althusser, which then leads us straight into the real-world case studies we can look at today.
So, this Italian Marxist Antonio Gramsci comes up with this brilliant concept, hegemony. He argued that the ruling class doesn't just stay in power by using force, police and armies. No, their real trick is getting everyone else to consent to their own domination. And religion is one of the main ways this happens. It weaves the values of the powerful so deeply into our culture that they just feel like common sense.
This is the perfect way to get your head around it. Hegemony isn't the soldier on the street corner telling you what to do. It's that little voice inside all of our heads that whispers, well, that's just the way things are. And religion? Wow, it can be an incredibly powerful vehicle for getting that idea in there.
Then Louis Althusser came along and got even more specific. He saw religion as an ideological state apparatus, or an ISA. Now, that sounds super academic and complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. ISAs are just the institutions, like the church, like schools, like the media, that do the heavy lifting for hegemony. They're the ones that actively teach us how to think and act in ways that keep the whole system running, generation after generation.
Okay, so this all sounds very theoretical, right? But does it actually hold up in the real world today? Oh, absolutely. Let's look at two incredible modern examples that show both sides of this religious coin.
First up, let's talk resistance. Check out liberation theology.
In the 60s, 70s, and 80s, Catholic priests all over Latin America were looking at the unbelievable poverty and oppression around them, and they went back to the Bible. And they argued that the core message of Christianity is about freeing the poor. So they sided with workers, with peasants, and they turned religion from an opiate into a weapon against exploitation. It's a perfect, real-world example of what Engels and Gramsci were talking about.
But then you had the total flip side, the prosperity gospel. This is a hugely popular teaching that says financial wealth is actually a sign of God's blessing. And if you're poor, well, that's because of your own personal lack of faith. From a Marxist point of view, this is the ultimate ideological tool. It makes massive inequality seem totally okay, and it puts all the blame for poverty squarely on the individual, not the system.
So, we have traveled all the way from Marx's original idea to the world we live in right now. What's the final verdict? What are the biggest strengths and, the biggest weaknesses of looking at religion through this Marxist lens?
Okay, the huge strength of this whole perspective is that it forces you to see the connection between what people believe and who has power and why there's inequality. It's also brilliant because it recognizes that religion isn't just one thing. It can be a tool for control and a tool for resistance. Now, the weaknesses? Well, sometimes it can get so focused on class that it misses other huge factors like gender or race. And you could argue that in a lot of secular places today, religion just doesn't have the same kind of ideological power it used to. And that really leaves us with the big question for our time. When you look at the world around you, with these massive economic divides, do you see religion functioning more to dull the pain and keep things the way they are? Or does it still hold that potential to ignite a fire, to spark a demand for a better, more just world? The Marxist lens doesn't hand us the answer, but it gives us an incredibly powerful way to ask the question.